It's as disappointing a team that we have seen in the NFL in a long time.
And we leaned on each other. We didn't let the outside noise and world divide us. It made it tighter and galvanized us.
Aaron Rodgers is the first Jets QB to have more than 10 touchdown passes in a season since 2019. He did it. He saved the Jets, right?
Couldn't happen to a more smug, cavalier, condescending guy.
Look, it might be time for the New York Jets to lock themselves out of their own facility.
Only bird in the world that will attack an eagle is a crow. It's a crow. The eagle spreads its wings and it soars as high as it possibly can. Eventually, the crow suffocates, falls back down to earth, and dies. That's what happens.
And it turns out they are the crows in that metaphor, not the eagles. They've been falling back to earth for nearly 15 years and they are praying to hit rock bottom. The New York Jets are not so much a football team as they are a conduit of utter disappointment. In 2010, they advanced as a wild card team to their second straight AFC Championship game in as many years. They had just vanquished Peyton Manning in Indianapolis and Tom Brady at Foxborough. There was plenty of reason to believe they would be going to their first Super Bowl since Broadway Joe Namath made his famous guarantee. Bart Scott spoke his famous words,
"Congratulations, see you in Pittsburgh.
Can't wait."
A week later, they were ousted in Pittsburgh. It appears the Jets can wait. They've been waiting since that game against the Steelers to return to the playoffs. It's been nearly a decade and a half, and the drought keeps getting longer. The Sacramento Kings and Seattle Mariners have both broken their no playoff streaks in that same time, meaning the Jets hold the distinction of the longest postseason drought in North American sports. And with the key win against the Texans, maybe there is hope again for Jets fans. But they do have a massive hill to climb to gain anyone's trust back.
And we come out and say, hey, thanks guys.
We're gonna give them a second. Aaron, let them.
It's no accident when a team misses the playoffs for 13 straight seasons. It takes a lot of mistakes, a lot of bad signings, bad hirings, trades, and draft picks, and the Jets just keep digging their hole deeper and deeper and deeper. I'm going to give you a comprehensive list of the most egregious mistakes since 2010 in an attempt to make sense of this cursed 14-year run by the Jets. We're going balls deep into every bad decision the Jets have made. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel, especially if you want the bad decisions to stop, or if you want them to keep going. Today's episode is sponsored by Underdog and my code That's Good. If you're gonna play Underdog and you want to play in daily fantasy, sign up with my code. That's all you gotta do. They also have pick'em games. They've got every sport going right now: basketball, hockey, football. And you can play in the pick'em game by stacking player stat totals. You can up to 1,000x your money now. Just use my code when you sign up, because if we get 10,000 signups, they owe me $1 million. Let's begin with the collapse in 2011. Expectations were sky high following the Jets' back-to-back title berths. The 2011 Jets began the season with an 8-5 record, needing just one more win to secure a playoff berth. Instead, they suffered an all-too-familiar collapse, losing their last 3 games. It's really where the drought began. They got smoked by the Eagles and the Giants in back-to-back weeks, then lost by 2 points to the 5-10 Dolphins, who were quarterbacked by Matt Moore at the time. One win, just one win, and they absolutely fucking blew it over the course of 21 days. I don't know if they necessarily would have done anything if they had made the playoffs that year, but they would have been able to say that they made the playoffs. But maybe the Jets could be saved by a holy figure, Tim Tebow. A few months following that collapse, something pretty cool happened. Well, for the Denver Broncos. The Broncos signed free agent quarterback Peyton Manning. They had an incumbent QB they needed to offload, so the Jets traded a 4th and 6th round pick to acquire QB Tim Tebow from Denver. Tebow had actually beaten the Jets the season before with an improbable insane 20-yard touchdown run in the final seconds of the game. And I have to think that Rex Ryan made that trade simply so he could avoid the embarrassment of losing to Tim Tebow a second time. Tebow mania, though, was at an all-time high. The Denver Broncos had just defeated the Steelers in overtime in the playoffs. And to be fair to the Jets, there were plenty of fans in Broncos country who didn't want Tebow to go, despite getting Peyton Manning. The move yielded next to no on-field results for the Jets. Tebow threw 8 passes. Just 8 passes as a Jet and was mostly relegated to the bench, while Denver spent one of those picks on linebacker Danny Trevathan, who turned into a key piece of their defense during the Manning era and was a major reason the Broncos won the Super Bowl in 2015. Tebow did leave Jets fans with one of the hottest, shirtless runs in the rain we've ever seen. The real drought nobody talks about is how we had to wait over a decade to get another wet, shirtless football hot guy scene. Oh, thank you, Top Gun 2. Fast forward to Thanksgiving night. 2012, QB Mark Sanchez produced one of the most infamous plays, not in Jets history, in NFL history, the butt fumble. Attempting the most bizarre quarterback draw I've ever seen, Sanchez collided with the large ass of his own lineman, Brandy at safety Steve Gregory. This is the kind of trauma that haunts an organization for a long time. You make the most embarrassing play of all time against your arch rivals on prime time on a national holiday. It is rock bottom. And it was the first video I ever recapped here on That's Good Sports that sort of went viral. Now, the reason an organization stays bad is a continuation of missing in the draft and signing the wrong players in free agency. These whiffs began with general manager Mike Tannenbaum. Tannenbaum made several draft picks that failed to move the needle, with Kyle Wilson, Quentin Coples, and Stephen Hill standing out as notable busts during his reign. Mike Tannenbaum is, of course, on ESPN now, and just to give you a glimpse of how bad of a GM he was, his current trade proposals don't even make sense on a hot take show.
Detroit Lions are going to acquire Myles Garrett for 3 first-round picks, Jahmyr Gibbs, and a second-round pick.
That literally doesn't make any sense, Mike.
They need a pass rusher in the worst way.
What are you talking about, Mike?
Corner Kyle Wilson, selected 29th overall in the first round of the 2010 draft, struggled to secure a consistent starting role despite being highly touted for his coverage skills coming out of Boise State. Just 2 seasons as a primary starter for the Jets. Quentin Coples, a first-round pick at 16th overall in 2012, showed some flashes of potential as a versatile defensive lineman, but was ultimately inconsistent, failing to become the dominant pass rusher the Jets envisioned. Melvin Ingram was taken 2 picks after him, by the way. His lack of an impact led to an early release in 2015. Stephen Hill, picked in the second round at 43 overall in 2012, came into the league with great athleticism and size, but was plagued by injuries and drops, which limited his production and cut his tenure with the Jets short. Alshon Jeffrey, selected 2 picks after him. Hindsight's always a dangerous game when talking about the draft, but these are 2 clear examples of misses with much better players at the same position getting selected almost immediately after the Jets pick. I imagine those other GMs jumping for joy when they saw the Jets not take the guy they wanted. In 2013, the Jets drafted cornerback D. Milliner with the 9th overall pick, hoping to fill the void left by the departure of All-Pro corner Darrelle Revis. Spoiler alert, he was not Darrelle Revis. Milliner's tenure with the Jets was stymied by injuries and inconsistent play, and he was released in 2016 after appearing in just 21 games over 3 seasons. Just to add insult to injury, Revis eventually signed with the Patriots in 2014, was a big reason that team won their first Super Bowl in a decade, and then of course the Jets decided to bring Revis back on a $70 million deal, only to find out that he was very, very washed. The tide had receded and Revis Island became Revis lakefront property at the Salton Sea. That's like letting your wife divorce you just so she can sleep with the CEO of a mega corporation, putting you out of business, and when she comes back and remarries you, she then tells you she's no longer able to have sex or actually love you. The Jets selected QB Geno Smith in the second round of the 2013 draft, hoping to find their long-term answer at the quarterback position after Mark Sanchez proved he was certainly not the guy. This was actually a nice spot to draft Geno Smith. E.J. Manuel was the only first-round quarterback selected that year, and that didn't work out for the Bills. Unfortunately, Smith's tenure was plagued by turnovers, inconsistent performances, and an off-field incident in 2015 where he was punched by teammate Ike Impali in the locker room, resulting in a broken jaw. I completely forgot Mike Vick started 3 games for the Jets in 2014. Just wanted to mention that. There was actual optimism, though, for Geno Smith before he got punched in the face. He had finished 2014 with a 358-yard, 3-touchdown game against Miami. One punch, though, and Geno was eating through a straw.
All it took was one punch.
Damn it! Geno played in just 1 game that season, and after bouncing around the league, has really settled in as a nice quarterback for the Seahawks. So it might have been the right pick in the wrong development track. I wonder if we're going to see that theme happen again with the New York Jets. I don't know. They did spend the 37th overall pick on wide receiver Devin Smith. Smith was expected to provide a deep threat, but injuries derailed his career almost from the start. He played in just 14 games over 2 seasons, recording a mere 10 receptions, and was waived by the team in 2017. Tyler Lockett was also available for the taking when they took him. The 2015 season, though, was incredibly odd for the Jets. Their quarterback in development injured by assault from a teammate. Their draft pick, a bust. But they win 10 games with Ryan Fitzmagic. Former Broncos receivers Brandon Marshall and Eric Decker combined for 2,500 yards and 26 touchdowns. New head coach Todd Bowles appeared to be the right man for the job. But sometimes getting teased with a glimmer of hope is worse than just sucking. Journeyman QB Ryan Fitzpatrick led the Jets to a 10-6 record out of absolutely nowhere. However, in a win-and-in game against the Buffalo Bills, Fitzpatrick threw 3 fourth-quarter interceptions, ending the Jets' playoff hopes. It was a gut-wrenching loss and a cruel reminder of the team's ongoing struggles. Despite the bitter end to 2015, the Jets doubled down on Fitzpatrick, re-signing him to a $12 million deal for the 2016 season. The move backfired as Fitzpatrick regressed significantly, leading the Jets to a 5-11 season and tossing 17 picks in just 11 starts. And it hurts me to bring this up because of how much I love that man, but I think we all know his true power was unleashed when no one would expect it. And the Jets put all of their eggs in the Fitz basket. Well, except for one egg. In 2016, the Jets used a second-round pick on Penn State QB Christian Hackenberg, a player that was considered a developmental prospect and bust. One that hadn't really produced anything of note since his freshman year under Bill O'Brien. This was the same draft where the Broncos had selected Paxton Lynch, and where, of course, Dak Prescott was available. If I have to be shamed for not drafting Dak, so do you, Jets fans. Hackenberg never appeared in a regular season game for the Jets, marking one of the most glaring draft misses in recent NFL history. Never played a snap. He was even terrible in other leagues, too. This was also not the last time the Jets would spend a top 70 pick on a player who had failed to play in a single game for them.
I'm uncomfortable sometimes because I think you look uncomfortable on some of the films.
Right.
This won't fix any of your problems in New York City, but if you like this stupid crumpled up paper airplane shirt, check it out over at benchwarmershop.com. When the Jets selected Sam Darnold with the 3rd overall pick in 2018, it felt for a moment that the Jets might finally have found their long-awaited savior, their heir to Broadway Joe. Instead, the Jets failed to surround Darnold with the right coaching staff and supporting cast, leading to a really frustrating 3-year stretch. They wanted Broadway Joe, but they got this Joe instead.
What does it mean to you now when the team is struggling?
I want to kiss you. I couldn't care less about the team struggling.
Making matters worse, the Jets passed on potential stars like Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson in favor of Sam Darnold. A decision that looks worse, of course, in hindsight. But then again, they might have fucked up those guys too. Adding insult to injury, Darnold missed time with mono in 2019, derailing what little momentum he had built. Sounds familiar, right? Also, would you rather get mono or a broken jaw? I'm not really sure. Anyway, Sam Darnold is now using his supernatural ghost-seeing powers to light it up with the Minnesota Vikings and looks poised to make a playoff run later this season.
Seeing ghosts.
Oh, you Jets, you silly, silly Jets. Imagine a Geno Smith, Sam Darnold playoff game in January. That might put Jets fans over the edge, so I hope it doesn't happen. So just a season after drafting Sam Darnold, 2019 became the blow-it-all-up year for the Jets. One of the best things you can do for a rookie quarterback and his development is fire the general manager and the head coach and the offensive coordinator who selected him. GM Mike Tannenbaum, fired in 2012. John Idzik does the job poorly for 2 years. Mike McCagnon brings Todd Bowles with him in 2015, and they cook nothing tasty for 4 years. So, 2019 begins the Joe Douglas era in New York City. His first move, hire Adam Gase. Wrong. 'Twas brother of Woody Johnson, Christopher, filling in for Woody while Woody was the UK ambassador. Okay, little bro, all you gotta do is not burn the house down while I'm gone. The matches and gasoline are right there, but don't touch it. The Jets did an entire round of free agency and the NFL draft with McCagnon and Gase, and then fired McCagnon after the draft before hiring Joe Douglas in June. I believe the phrase for this is ass backwards. You kind of want your GM and head coach to be on the same page and make all of those key decisions together. And they didn't even hire a good head coach or a highly sought-after head coach. They hired Adam Gase, and the hiring of Gase in 2019 was met with widespread criticism and skepticism, and it quickly became clear why. Under Gase, the Jets went 9-23, a period defined by dysfunction and a lack of progress. It was one of those moves that didn't even require hindsight, just foresight only. I know Adam Gase made the playoffs with the Dolphins in 2016, but the Jets got to see how bad he was up close twice a year, and they still decided to pull the trigger on one of the worst coaches to ever get a second chance in the NFL. Looking at a division rival head coach with back-to-back losing seasons and thinking, yeah, that's my guy. I want whatever drug Woody Johnson is ingesting to think that way. That would have been like the Vikings hiring Matt Patricia after his failed run in Detroit, or the Saints currently scheming to poach Dave Canales from the Panthers. A few months later in 2019, the Jets spent the 68th overall pick on Florida edge rusher Ja'Kai Polite. To put it politely, what the fuck, Jets? The move was widely panned as a reach, and Polite never made it to the regular season, racking up 6 figures in fines before being cut before the end of training camp. So once again, a day 2 pick was used on a complete, and I mean complete, non-factor on the field for the Jets. Polite missed the whole 2019 season and later recorded exactly 1 sack as a member of the Rams in 2020. And one of the Jets' biggest miscues was signing running back Le'Veon Bell. But I'll bring in my friend and tortured Jets fans, Luigi, to tell you all about it.
The signing of Le'Veon Bell by the Jets in 2019 was a major misallocation of resources for the franchise. Coming off a year-long holdout due to a contract dispute with the Pittsburgh Steelers, Bell was expected to rejuvenate the Jets' offense and provide a threat both on the ground and in the passing game for Sam Darnold. The Jets signed him to a 4-year, $52.5 million contract. Oh, by the way, $35 million of that was guaranteed for a guy who hadn't played football in a year, which made him one of the highest paid running backs in the league. However, Bell's production never matched his contract. He really struggled behind a weak offensive line and clashed with then head coach Adam Gase, who apparently never even wanted Bell on the team. Bell failed to break 800 yards in his first season and saw a steep decline in efficiency and explosiveness compared to his all-pro years in Pittsburgh. But the worst part is this forced Bell to double down on his rap career, something that would bring all football fans pain, not just Jets fans.
Diamonds are white, got me feeling Caucasian. I'm rocking all black like I play for the Ravens.
Thank you so much, Luigi. Make sure you check out his YouTube channel. channel, Weege. He does excellent work. He makes excellent Madden videos, so please go show him some love and give him a sub. Joe Douglas, the current general manager of the New York Jets, has had a mixed track record in the NFL draft with some other high-profile misses, including Mekhi Becton and Denzel Mims. Becton, the 11th overall pick in the 2020 draft, was selected for his enormous size and athleticism, with hopes that he could anchor the Jets' offensive line for years to come. Ahead of Tristan Wirfs, by the way, one of the best tackles in the league right now. However, Becton's career has been marred by injuries, limiting him to just a handful of games over his first few seasons and raising questions about his durability,
which is why he ended up signing a one-year deal with the Eagles this last offseason.
Denzel Mims, taken 59th overall in the second round of the same draft.
Denzel, this is Joe Douglas with the Jets. I'm looking for a playmaker. Did I find one on the right line?
Punishing me. Entered the league with promising physical tools and playmaking ability. Yet, Mims struggled to find his footing in the Jets offense, accumulating just 676 yards and 0 career touchdowns in 3 years with the Jets. The Jets were bad in 2020, perhaps even worse than usual. The good news was there was a clear-cut number 1 prospect at quarterback waiting for them if they could secure the first pick in the draft. But they couldn't even do that right, could they? New York inexplicably won 2 of their last 3 games and got leapfrogged by the Jaguars in the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes. And I'm well aware that Trevor Lawrence hasn't quite been all that we expected, but keep in mind, this is still a guy who won a playoff game with the Jacksonville Jaguars. No small feat. Someone say feat? No, Rex, not that kind of feat. And the guy the Jets ended up with?
Zach Wilson.
He's no longer on the team, but we'll get to him in a minute. In 2021, the Jets brought in head coach Robert Saleh, right? Hoping his defensive experience with the 49ers and his leadership would change the culture after the Adam Gase debacle. And to be fair to Joe Douglas and Woody Johnson, Saleh was the hottest head coaching candidate in that hiring cycle. That was a group that included Urban Meyer, fired Brandon Staley, fired Arthur Smith, fired David Culley, scapegoat. Only Dan Campbell and Nick Sirianni remained from that round. Saleh was definitely an upgrade over Adam Gase, but the record is what the record is. He was a 20-36 head coach in 3+ seasons, and while he did catch some bad luck, the organization didn't get any less dysfunctional while he was in charge. Jets fans were promised all gas and no brakes. Instead, they just got loads and loads of gas. One thing the Jets did well was fleece the Seattle Seahawks in the Jamal Adams trade. That was nice. Getting not 1 but 2 first-round draft picks for a safety should be studied by future GMs on how you can get the pieces needed to rebuild your team. And they used those picks to draft Elijah Vera Tucker, one of the few good and consistent pieces on their offensive line. They were also able to draft receiver Garrett Wilson, who has been very good. Winning a trade like this and hitting with the draft picks you accumulated and still sucking is so perplexing to me that I don't understand how it's even possible. Oh wait, yes I do. It's because Zach Wilson was drafted in the same year as Tucker. With the 2nd overall pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Jets select QB Zach Wilson, banking on his raw talent and big play potential. It didn't work out that way, unfortunately. Wilson had a huge COVID season at BYU, but if you looked a little closer, you would have noticed that his stats really smelled like poo-poo and that he was racking up big numbers against really inferior competition. Only Woody Johnson of Johnson & Johnson benefited more from COVID than Zach Wilson when you really think about it. Wilson went 12-21 over 3 seasons in New York, throwing 2 more picks than touchdowns, being more well-known for possibly sleeping with his friends' moms than playing quarterback. The Jets finally did recoup a 7th rounder when they traded Zach Wilson to Denver, which means in a couple years he'll be lighting it up with the Rams or some team like that, right? The most bizarre thing that occurred is Jets receiver Garrett Wilson and corner Sauce Gardner winning defensive and offensive rookie of the year honors in 2022. 2 great picks by Joe Douglas. In a draft, they also nabbed Breece Hall. There is tons of talent on this current Jets roster, which is why this last part hurts so much.
We watched Mike White, Joe Flacco, hell even Josh Johnson look like a better starting quarterback than Zach Wilson ever could. So going into 2023, all we wanted was a legitimate starting quarterback.
Aaron Rodgers officially is being traded to the New York Jets. And it just came down moments ago in a trade involving 6 picks. The Jets are sending their first-round pick this year, their second-round pick this year.
Sorry.
Well, hold on! Big Swagoo, hold on. Their second-round pick next year, it's a conditional pick. They get back the Packers' first-round pick this year and a 5th-round pick. But the trade is coming down.
It was a Super Bowl swing for a team that hadn't made the playoffs in over 10 years. The Rodgers era was obviously delayed a year by his Achilles rupture 4 snaps into the 2023 season.
Robert Saleh acknowledged that they believe it's an Achilles injury. And that is what the feeling across the league this evening was.
But now, since taking over as the starter, the results have been, well, the worst of Rodgers' career. And all it cost them was $112 million over 3 years. Oh yeah, and he could just retire whenever he wants, leaving the Jets with yet another massive void at the QB position. Rodgers has turned the Jets into even more of a sideshow than usual, bringing along his cronies like Randall Cobb, Nathaniel Hackett, and now pulling the level of influence to get Davante Adams as well. And somewhere in there they gave Allen Lazard $44 million over 5 years. At least you can say Aaron Rodgers is a better quarterback than a pseudo GM right now, and he's a bad QB. Well, he's average. Okay, well, he's had 1 great half. Things are improving ever so slightly for Rodgers. However, he was playing so poorly he could no longer make Nathaniel Hackett look even serviceable. He might not be qualified to do anything other than, quote, Austin Powers. And not even the good Austin Powers, fucking gold member of all movies. But because he's one of Rodgers' guys, Hackett failed upwards into the Jets' offensive coordinator job. And he has now been relieved of play calling duties. I'm not really sure what Hackett does anymore in New York, but the fact that he's even still on the payroll is a symbol of the relentless power that Rodgers wields in that building. It took until week 8 for Hassan Reddick to get onto the field in 2024. No, he wasn't injured. He was holding out for half the season immediately after being traded to the Jets from the Eagles. It's one of the most bizarre trades we've ever seen. The Jets gave up a conditional 3rd-round pick to get Haason Reddick. Whether Reddick is to blame or the Jets are to blame, it's irrelevant at this point. Reddick could have made a difference in some close games early in the season for the Jets, but he only got onto the field after they were already 2-5, and when he did get on the field, he didn't do anything in their loss to the Patriots. He didn't even record a tackle. He did play much better in his 2nd game against the Texans, getting 8 pressures. That 1 win has given life to a team that would have been dead if they lost to the Texans on Thursday night. A game where they fumbled the touchdown right before the goal line, got a personal foul on a field goal attempt, which somehow worked out in their favor, as Kaimi Fairbairn missed a chip shot after that penalty. They did very Jets-like things all game and still found a way to win. And finally, Davante Adams. Now this trade may ultimately be the right move, and maybe by some miracle it works out just enough. No, not playoffs. That Aaron Rodgers doesn't retire the second the Jets take the final snap of the 2024 season. But even after a weird win in prime time, the Jets' expectations have been reset. The fringe Super Bowl team in 2023 before the season started will now be happy with simply having a winning record and a chance, a small chance, at making the playoffs. And much like Russell Wilson in Denver, the lightning rod for the Jets is a culmination of high expectations not being met. They are not the worst team in the league, and maybe all of the scrutiny from outside of the organization can galvanize them.
It better, because until Thursday night, they were the biggest train wreck in the NFL this season.
And we leaned on each other. We didn't let the outside noise and world divide us. It made tighter and galvanized us, man.
To all the non-believers. How did that? To all the non-believers.
Guys, I'm so proud of the group, man. The way you guys stayed together, the way you were so resilient.
Poetic justice. We know we were a much better team than we came up and represented ourselves.
That game right there represents exactly where the process of this thing is.
People gave us no chance, like we barely made it in playoffs. We're a good football team.
And maybe, just maybe, Jeff Ulbrich can keep them going. And these last moves, Rodgers, Reddick, and Adams, are actually, finally, the right ones. And if they're not, God save the Jets. Thanks for watching That's Good Sports. Please subscribe here on YouTube. We did a video like this for the Denver Broncos last season. If you want to check out all of the wrong moves they made, go watch it. And actually, you can use that as a bit of hope, New York Jets fans, because it looks like the Broncos have finally rectified their mistakes.